My name is Michel Ogonet. I'm president of SIGRE. I've been in SIGRE for 30 years. I was also president of the French National Committee. Then I was elected treasurer of SIGRE, vice president of finance, and more recently I was entrusted and very honored to become the president of SIGRE elected. SIGRE for me is a fantastic association where basically you learn and you share knowledge and where you meet people and you can network. And this session for a vendor, which was my job before, was essential because basically with one metro ticket, in 1 week, I could meet all my customers or my main customers in a very pleasant and relaxed atmosphere. It had great value for me and my company. I think it's really great. It's been extremely well organized. The rendu is very good. Obviously, we missed the networking, but otherwise, we have all the other paradigms of an open session with interactivity, with panels which are lively, with group discussion meetings which go on very extremely well. But we missed the networking, and that's something which obviously we cannot do without. The issue is also that this session has a cost if we want to have something which is nice to see and nice to hear. And basically we had planned that we would have 2,000 people attending at a cost of 400 euro, which is what it costs, because to have something good you need to spend. It is an issue because we don't have the exhibition. The exhibition has two values. First, for our partners, being able to present what they do to the different members who are there. And secondly, it also helps SIGRE to balance its accounts by the revenues that are derived. So we have to also reinvent ourselves there. We have created sponsorships. We have created ads or in the different parts of the virtual session. But globally, we will have to reinvent ourselves in future because clearly, following this pandemic, people will not travel the same way. People have been now accustomed to being remote when it comes to attending meetings. So we'll have to take that into account in the way our business model will evolve in SIGRE. In fact, there are two challenges. One is coming back to a CO2-free emission network, that is to say, the integration of renewables, which cause an issue of network management and network stability. And the second is to connect the billion people that are not connected today to the grid for their well-being, and I think for the well-being of all. So when it comes to SIGRE accompanying this move, clearly there needs to be the evolution is extremely quick. There needs to be a lot of knowledge sharing. Digitalization on one side, HVDC on the other, are facilitating this transition, but the knowledge has to be shared and the knowledge has to evolve. And that's really where SIGRE has a great role to play. And the other, when it comes to electrifying countries which are not, SIGRE is being present now in Africa in a greater form, and that will also, I think, help disseminate knowledge about electricity. The pandemic is not over. The pandemic will change our habits, especially the habits of traveling. We will have to become more virtual. We will have to create events which will be interactive. We will miss the networking. So there also we'll have to find new ways of enabling people to network. Because what's very important in SIGRE is to know who to call when I have an issue. And it's always easier if you know the person.
Hello, I'm Dr. Diego Robalino, Business Development Director with Megger.
And I'm Ken Petrov, Power Transformer Product Manager for Megger.
We are here to discuss reliability of power and distribution transformers, as well as high voltage bushings. This is a topic of interest not only for the industry in general, but this is also for SIGRE subcommittees A2 and D1. So Ken, people want to know what can be done to improve the condition assessment of these critical components in the power grid.
That's a great question, Diego. One of the most common testing practices, line frequency tan delta, lacks explanation and verification. At Megger, we have researched using the Delta 4000 or TRAX plus TDX to cross-check line frequency results with tan delta measurements at 1 Hz. Using this novel approach, One can validate acceptable results, confirm questionable measurements, and most importantly, identify early changes in insulation that are not detectable at line frequency.
Interesting. You know, Ken, in addition to that, temperature affects dielectric loss measurements. So all frequencies must be normalized to 20 degrees C for accurate interpretation. At Megger, we have implemented the correlation between frequency and temperature. We refer to as individual temperature correction, as it provides dielectric measurements that are unique to that particular asset.
But Diego, what about performance characteristics of transformers? What is a novelty in the testing industry?
Well, Ken, one of the most practical and simple ways to verify the condition of a transformer is by testing the transformer's turn ratio test, which is the TTR typically called. A complex situation has been when observed where the typical step-down procedure does not provide measurements that are within the limits of industry acceptance values. The way Megger has solved this problem is using the TTR-U3 with the step-up method, with the three-phase excitation from the low voltage side of the transformer.
We hope this conversation on condition assessment and reliability has provided you with helpful information and solutions to improve your testing. For more information or to get answers to a question, visit our website, contact us via email or LinkedIn.
Enjoy SIGRE's Centennial session and hope to see you in 2022.
SIGRE is a technical wealth of knowledge as it gives guidance on power systems expertise through the work of the study committees in the form of technical bulletins and other publications such as your SIGRE Electra or the SIGRE Journal. I've been in SIGRE since 2007 when I attended the B5 Study Committee colloquium in Madrid. SIGRE has broadened my technical knowledge and has expanded my global network. Personally, within SIGRE, I have been exposed to leadership opportunities and I've grown in that area. The most significant contribution thus far, I think being the International Chair for Women in Engineering has given me and the SIGRE community the opportunity to consciously address gender gap, which is not only a SIGRE problem or an issue, but it is a global challenge. This is especially so in the engineering space where women representation is still in the minority. While I am still the chair, we have actually increased the number of women in engineering forums at the national levels to over 40%. And the aim is to have women representation in all national committees and a fair representation of experts at study committee levels. And we would like to see women demonstrating leadership within the SIGRE structure. The virtual session is an opportunity for SIGRE to reflect back on the milestones achieved. And it is also a yardstick of agility to adopt the future and the technological changes. The most important challenges for SIGRE today, in my opinion, it is bringing the balance on women expert representation and to also integrate young generation and to harvest sufficient knowledge for the new technologies. The SIGRE in the future, I see it growing even more with equal participation of women engineers and more collaborations with other engineering bodies. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mrs. Sampaio, and thanks for joining me today. We talk about your wind turbines in combination with clean air GIS and avoiding unnecessary impact on the global warming. I would like to address to you two questions today. What is your strategy towards SF6 substitution, and why have you chosen F-gas-free Blue GIS technology, as until today you ordered more than 200 applications?
Thanks a lot for inviting me, and thanks a lot for your questions. To answer your first question, let me share that the mission of Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy is we make real what matters, clean energy for generations to come. Therefore, environmental protection is fundamental to our culture. And indeed, we committed to become carbon neutral by 2025. We reached the target before in 2019. And now our long-term ambition is to become net zero CO2 emissions by 2050. So with these values, it was clear for us that there is a risk, a potential risk, because the standard of the switchgears of the industry are isolated with the SF6 gas, which in case of escape could damage the environment. So for sure, it's a risk that we want to avoid. So to your second question, yeah, we ordered that a quantity of switchgears because it's a co-development we did together, and it was a really specific development for offshore turbines where we wanted to have this clean air isolation, and it was the first one in the market, but also we designed it specifically to go for the high voltage, the 66 kV, and also to have a non-modular switchgear design that we were receiving fully assembly from the production line in your factories, but we could replace and reinstall in the wind turbines without having to disassembly the primary parts. So altogether is for us a best-in-class and a best-in-cost switchgear, on top, for sure, of really avoiding the risk of escapes, because in this case, we have the switchgear isolated with clean air. And we introduced this product already in a wind farm in 2019, in a wind farm called Nisum Brednin in Denmark, and now is our standard 66 kV solution in the switchgears in all the offshore turbines we are installing.
Thank you for your answers, and especially in your trust in our technology.
Thank you. You are welcome, and looking forward to new developments together.
J'ai choisi la station F pour vous retrouver. C'est un lieu très important pour moi. C'est vraiment le lieu d'une nouvelle génération, le lieu du futur. Imaginez quand même 35 000 m² au cœur de Paris, qui reçoit le monde entier. Des lieux dans Paris, il y en a des centaines que j'adore. Le concept de Paris, c'est ça, c'est fait de petits villages, de petites places, de petits quartiers. Nous, Parisiens, on peut devenir des touristes dans Paris. Paris, pour moi, est une ville importante au niveau architectural parce qu'il y a une ouverture, il y a une tension qui se crée entre le contemporain et le classicisme. Cette ville, elle est sans arrêt en mouvement et c'est ce que j'aime dans Paris, finalement. C'est une ville dont je ne pourrais pas me passer.
Bienvenue au Sigret.
Welcome to Sigrid.
Bem-vindos ao mundo do segredo.
Voor de kijkers thuis, welkom bij Sigret.
Bienvenue au Sigret.
Bienvenue au Sigret.
Hallo, willkommen zu Sigret.
Benvenuti a Sigre.
Bienvenue au Sigret.
Bienvenue au Sigret.
Willkommen bei der Sigret.
Welcome to our Women in Energy 2021 forum. I am Claire Lajomazinck from France. I chair the Women in Energy network and I actually work for the French National TSO RTE. I am thrilled and very honored to open this forum and to moderate this first introductive panel. I will be assisted today by my friend Britta Buchholz, who will be the online coordinator, and Britta will as well moderate the following panel. And Madi Binet from Austria will be the online moderator. She will use the Spark Hub tools that you will use to interact during the forum, answering questions, posting commentaries, and answering to some polls Madi has prepared for you. So I guess that we will have a successful and very interesting forum for both of you. As you know, 2021 is a very special year, and not only because of the too long-lasting COVID crisis. 2021 is the centenary birthday of Sigret, founded here in Paris 100 years ago. Since that time, Sigret has had a huge contribution to the development of electricity throughout the world, joining forces to find the best technical solutions. 2021 is as well the confirmation, if needed, of the urgency of climate change fighting. We need more than ever all the best solution to decarbonize our energy and to electrify as much as possible all the uses as heat or mobility. And of course, raising the share of renewables will have a lot of consequences on the grid that we need to handle and find the best way to do it as soon as possible. So SIGRE has still a central role to play to gather people from all over the world and to accelerate the reach of this decarbonization and this fight against climate change. And it's not only a technical challenge, it's more than all a very human one, because providing electricity, cheap, green, and high-quality electricity is like providing potable water or food to people. It's caring people. So for that, SIGRE does need all the possible skills, competencies, feelings, ideas to achieve it as soon as possible. So SIGRE does need more women involved in their work. SIGRE need an active Women in Energy forum. So thanks to Kayakazi Dioka, our chair, Kayakazi Dioka is from Africa and is chairing our International Women in Energy network, and she has organized this forum. And I am pleased to give her the mic because she will share with us a vision and a commitment and explain us why and how women have a central role to play to energy transition. So, Kayakazi, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Claire, for such a great introduction. I must say it's been an honor to lead SIGRE Women in Energy. I think leading with the team that I have, it's been such a great journey and joy. And so today's session is really dedicated to the team that I have on my side. Thank you very much for your support and for making this happen. So as Claire has mentioned, I am Kayakazi Dioka, and from the continent of Africa, I come from the further south, so that is South Africa, and I work for a utility called Eskom, which is a South African utility. Today, I will take you through just a quick update on what we've been up to since we last met, which is in the last 12 months. And then after that, I will give an introduction into the session. You would have noticed that we are no longer SIGRE Women in Engineering. This is so that we could incorporate all the 16 study committees within SIGRE. And so our name is now SIGRE Women in Energy. And we are hoping with this, we will attract more of the scientists from all the other study committees to please join this forum. Secondly, we have created a mentorship space on KMS. So we would like for you to be mentors. Please raise your hands so that we can update these. And these are currently at the national levels. We have created for all our Women in Energy members a link to the study committees of interest. So if you are interested in a particular study committee, we would like your name to be assigned to that in that list. And then we can have all the study committees with the list of Women in Energy members that are interested in that particular study committees, because we would like for that mentorship to even happen at the study committee level. We would like for all the women in energy energy to actually take up space already within the study committee, the works of the study committees. And so please do join if you are interested in being aligned to a study committee of your choice. We have increased the number of women in energy forums at national committee levels. Officially, we're sitting at 37%. However, we have more than 40% growth or participation from the national committees, and this is still growing. And so for more information, you can actually visit our website, which is under the SIGRE community, under Women in Energy. For the first time, we have SIGRE Women in Energy Award. And so at this point, I would like to congratulate our 5 recipients of this award. Your work that you have done towards increasing participation of women within SIGRE, your work, your participation in the study committees and at your national committee levels is very much appreciated. So congratulations, and we're looking forward to more women in energy receiving this award in the coming years. Well done. Coming to today's session, as introduced, firstly, the theme is energy transition over the next 100 years. So why over the next 100 years and not the next 10 years? Well, that's because we are celebrating 100 years as SIGRE. And this is for SIGRE an opportunity to actually look back at the milestones that have been achieved and look at what it is that we need to adopt to as far as the future is concerned, as far as the technological changes are concerned, the technological changes that are happening in the energy space, which is where the energy transition comes in. So the theme of energy transition incorporates the technological changes as well as what is it that we as SIGRE can do in the next 100 years. If we look at the goals for sustainable development, one of these goals, goal number 7, is that of an affordable and clean energy. This goal talks to access to electricity, where we are still sitting with about 759 million people that are still without this access to electricity. And, South Africa is one of the countries that are actually driving access to electricity with planned connections of approximately 300,000 households per annum. And Eskom, the utility, it plays a major role in those connections, where we are contributing over 66% towards the yearly connections that are estimated every year. Another challenge that we are dealing with under this goal of affordable and clean energy is that of access to clean fuels and technology for cooking. We still are sitting with over 2.6 billion people that are still without this privilege. And all of these figures are actually taken from the UN report on sustainable development goals. Integration of renewable energies. The share of renewable energies within the energy consumption is still sitting at about 17%. And also another challenge is that of the energy efficiency, which is all addressed under the goal of sustainable development. Another goal when we are talking about sustainable development is that of a climate change, as Claire has mentioned. Our role is to urgently address this, the climate change, and to combat what the changes is bringing and its effect as far as the sustainable development is concerned. Now, there is several changes. There is lots of goals that we need to achieve for a sustainable development. What does this mean to us? All of these changes actually bringing us opportunities to do things better. We need to be doing things in a better manner. We need to be looking out for diverse solutions. Diverse skills are needed at the table. And these opportunities are bringing about solutions towards issues such as your gender equality, better education, good health. All of these, which are also goals for a sustainable development, can be addressed through all of these opportunities that are coming. And who is better to lead this? So what they are doing is bringing opportunities for women demonstrate leadership, to take up space within the energy sector. And that's what we are hoping to achieve with all of these forums, to actually develop and demonstrate that leadership within the energy sector. And so if we come back to SIGRE and say what has happened in the last few years, well, firstly, if we go back to our database, in the 70s, as far as the membership database is concerned, we have 2 leaders that are there in the database that have been with SIGRE for since the 70s. But if you come to the end of 2020, we are looking at 394 experts. Now, these are now not just members, but experts, people that are participating at the working group level. So what does this mean? This means we have about 394 leaders in the energy space. We have 394, at least 394 women energy experts in the space within SIGRE. And so when we talk of the next 100 years, when we talk of the next future, what are we trying to say? We've got already a good baseline, but we need to work on it. Because if we were not to do anything about the numbers that we are seeing, we're saying, okay, 394, that's a good enough number. It looks great if you are looking at how we ended up in the, I think by 2010, we still had less than 100 experts. Now, that is not good enough, because when you translate it into the statistics, it still represents less than 10% of the number of experts within the SIGRE community. So we still need to develop and have more women actively participating within the SIGRE structure, within the energy transition that we are talking about, that all the changes that are happening, all the opportunities that are currently happening. So what is next? Well, my target, especially for this particular forum, is that we lead the energy space and excite some thoughts around what is happening now within energy transformation. What we would like to know is what is your first thought around it, and also to encourage women to write around the energy transition space that is taking place right now. We need to give guidance as SIGRE. I think SIGRE is well known for giving guidance in the technical space. So now as women in energy, we need to give that guidance in the form of publications, which we know within SIGRE, it comes in the forms of your Electra, your technical bulletins, etc. So we need to lead at the forefront. We need to be the ones that are sending out all the facts, all the guidance within the energy space. And so today I would like to encourage everybody, whoever is listening right now, to please chat to us as to how we can take this ship further, how we can be leading as women in energy of SIGRE, how we can actually lead and not take the back seat and wait for the rest of the industry to give us the information. Let us be the leaders and even create a working group that is led by SIGRE Women in Energy. And that is the leadership that we are talking about. And so if you are interested in becoming part of that vehicle where we are leading the energy transition as SIGRE Women in Energy, please do talk to us. You can pop in the chat on all your questions, your comments, or you can even talk to us after this session. So with that, I would like to welcome everybody. Welcome to our session, and I hope you do enjoy the lineup of speakers that we have prepared that are going to unpack this energy transition from today and going into the future. Thank you and enjoy the session.
Thanks, Kayakazi, and great thanks for your very inspiring and energizing message. So at that point, Madi, have we got any question to Kayakazi?
There was just one question that was, what can women do to become a mentor or mentee?
Yes. Kayakazi, would you like to answer to this question?
Yes, so if you would like to be a mentor, you can contact myself. I think my details are on the community, that SIGRE community webpage of Women in Energy. You can contact me directly. I will send you a link on the KMS link where we can basically put your details up. And if you are looking for a mentor, so you are a mentee, you can actually look it up from each of the national committees on the KMS basis. And if your national committee doesn't have it, please do contact me.
Okay, thanks, Kaya. So at that point, I will turn to Michel Ogonet, our president. Okay. So, Michel, you are not president, and your support is very important for our network. But apart from president of SIGRE, you are as well a father.
Yes.
May I ask you a rather personal question? So, as a father, would you advise your daughter to get into the energy industry and the electricity industry?
Sure. I mean, I have a young daughter. She's 15, so and I really love her to be in that sector. So we know that daughters don't always listen to their parents. So I have to find the right arguments or the right incentives, or I should rather say she should find them. And one of the ways clearly is today is the global aspect of energy. Electricity is vital for life, and it was viewed that way as an enabler for tools, for industry, for lighting, and so on. And as such, you could say it was indispensable, but maybe it lacked attraction. Now we're seeing electricity as something which will help us to survive against global warming. So it's a completely different approach of the same subject, in fact. And because electricity, first, will be able to transmit energy which is clean, which is CO2 free, and also in some instances electricity will be there to replace other means of mechanical power and other, in order to be able also there again to make better use of CO2 free energy. So the paradigm completely changes, and I think for people in general and women in particular, the issue of life, the issue of well-being, the issue of future, we men, we tend to be sometimes a bit forgetful about that. I think it has a lot of attraction. And in the case of my daughter, we have I could say a little tangle at home, because my wife would like her to go to economics because she thinks it's a broader subject. I think she's got a scientific mind, and I'm quite sure she will not listen to me, because I have to be very careful. She must make her own choice. But I'm quite sure that what she can see, and she can find a lot of attraction as to what is happening in the world of energy. The other point also, we were the electricity was a very national business not so long ago. I'd say last century, but that was yesterday. And now it's becoming at the level of a continent with exchanges. So it has also a great human factor in that field. And we know that in the near future we may have something much more global. I think there again, the attraction of this activity and the contribution women can bring is very significant. So, because what we see is that when they leave school, quite a lot, or at least when they get a level of high school, a lot of them have, we have as many girls as men who have very good, I would say, STEM degrees and so on, and yet only 25% of the girls go into engineering and so on, and that has to change, and because there has to be seen as part of our future and part of our future life. So this is what I hope she will see, and I'm sure she can do very well. In any case, she will do very well, whatever she does.
Yes.
I'm a proud father.
You're right, perfectly right. Thanks, Michel. And going back to SIGRE, in fact, what you do like SIGRE brings to her to help her to get in, fit in, and bring a valuable contribution?
Well, I think I often say about SIGRE, it's a two-way street. And I think that's what's great, unique about this organization or this association is you contribute and you receive. You receive and you contribute. And I think for any person who has a feel of collective being, and men can have a feel of collective being as well, I mean, but I think also for women to be able to be part of a collective group where they can contribute and at the same time have a purpose, and here we have now a real purpose, how to get to a CO2-free or neutral world. I think that's a real attraction, because we need today to have things we believe in. We need to go beyond our everyday life. We need a global challenge. SIGRE has this fantastic advantage that it's a worldwide community, that the principle is consensus, that we have members who sometimes are politically at a distance, but when they're in SIGRE, they're together, and they remember that we are in one world. So I think anything, that is something which can attract someone like her, clearly, and like other people as well, I would say. So to me, that's one area where the promotion that women in energy can do, and I think it's very good also. Kaya mentioned the change from energy to engineering to energy, but also you have in energy people who are economists, people who are physicians. You don't have to be an electrician to be in SIGRE. I think that's also something which is very important. SIGRE is broader than just electricity, even if it's our speciality. But I think we need also to have people have a different frame of mind, and in that space, I think also women can bring a lot.
Thanks, Michel. And perhaps another last question to you. And if we turn back to women that are already involved in technical work in SIGRE, how would you convince them to dare taking more responsibilities?
Well, I think they must stand up. Kaya knows that very well. She does it extremely well. So, it's not always easy to stand up, because we always have sometimes we feel it's for someone else to speak or for someone else to carry. So I think the first thing is stand up. I mean, clearly everyone, there's a knowledge base is there, so it's really affirmation of oneself. And SIGRE being a very tolerant association, I think that's something we have to be all proud of. Well, it's the best place to stand up. There's no competition in SIGRE. In the office, you could say sometimes there's competition. There's, what does he think? What's going to happen to me? I'm going to upset my boss. All the things which clearly should not happen, but sometimes it's facts of life. Here in SIGRE, there's no issue, no judgment. You contribute. You have a bad idea, it's a bad idea, it doesn't matter. You'll change. Someone else will convince you. And I think therefore for women, I would say please stand up and don't hesitate. That's the first point. But I think Philippe will show figures where we see that women are in a strong position in SIGRE. One point which I also didn't mention also about energy is that we've also been very much at a time where power was adapted to consumption. And tomorrow we'll be in a world where we'll have to adapt consumption to power. And clearly, and there again, I think women understand that probably better than men. And they also, this way of operating, this new change of paradigm will be something important, and it's also good for them.
Thanks,
for
Michel.
us.
Madi, have we got any question to Michel at that point?
Yes, we do have one general question. Some organisations such as IRENA have carried out surveys on the main barriers to women's participation in the sector as a way to guide actions to increase gender equality. Is SIGRE thinking of doing something similar?
Yes, but I think one way is have been sometimes to give scholarships in university to bring people across. I think SIGRE also has to show incentives to bring women at leading position, and also to join. First to join. I think the first step is to join SIGRE, and then is to promote inside SIGRE. So there is way also, I mean, that's also part of the NGN actions, but besides the NGN action, there could be some joint actions in order to promote, in fact, the recruitment or the interest of women in university, in academics, to join, and also people in career. I think you'll see in the statistics that, strangely enough, we have a higher proportion of women in the younger ages than in the older ages, which is there are also, maybe we should also see how to keep people inside SIGRE and why they should not leave, because I think everyone has its value. That's quite clear. The other area also, as president, is the presence of women in engineering as part of the steering committee. This is new. And it's also is a way to listen and to have a different approach to our subjects, and it's a strong contribution. And that we value very much, and I think that also will help bring a change in the way we approach. I mean, what we're looking for is good ideas. I think we all try our best, but we need creation of ideas. We're not running a business. We're trying to get people to have new ideas, bring these ideas in, and these ideas help us to progress. And therefore, different approaches are extremely useful because they are the wealth of SIGRE.
Thanks, Michel.
Thank you. Sorry.
So now I turn to Philippe Adam. Philippe, you are Secretary General for SIGRE for some years now. Your contribution is as well very important for us. And you has prepared for us some figures to show the contribution of women and the improvement, I guess and hope. So.
Thank you, Claire. So my role now is to share with you some figures to illustrate the presence of women in our community at different levels. So I have chosen to make a presentation of first the share of women in SIGRE governing bodies, and I will start with the Administrative Council, where in our last counting we had 8% only, I would say, so 5 out of 61. We have 61 national committees, so I count the number of women who are representing one national committee on board of this Administrative Council, so 8%. It's stable if we look at what the situation was 3 years ago when I made a similar presentation. Then if we move to the Steering Committee, well, 12% is a proportion, but you should know that the Steering Committee has been added 2 seats recently for representative of women in energy and for the NGN. So now we have 2 women out of 17 members. And these 2 members are the NGN representative and the women in energy representative. If not, we would have 0%. Then the Technical Council. Here the figures are more positive, I would say. So the Technical Council, who is a managing body for all the technical activities of SIGRE. 3 years ago, there were 4 ladies out of 21. Now we have 5, and that makes 24%, which is an improvement. And if we now make a focus on study committee chairs, we have 16 study committees. So if we compare to the situation 3 years ago, we have added 1 more woman. So we have now 31%. Of course, it's close to parity, but there is still a long way. And okay, so that's the situation for governing bodies. Now, if we move to more operational bodies like study committee secretaries, so the figure has been reduced for some reason. So instead of 3, we have 2 out of 16 study committees, so 12.5%. Regarding working group conveners, it's quite stable. Well, no, it has reduced a little, so we have 7%. Okay, so here there is room for improvement. In terms of working group members, the number of members has increased by more than 10% in the last 3 years. And the number and the proportion of women is 9%, as you can see. And now if we move to SIGRE members as a whole, so 3 years ago I had no data, no reliable data to propose. But thanks to the efforts of national committees, also the central office, we are able today to provide reliable data. And the average figure, and you will understand what I mean by average figure, the proportion of women is 11.4%. But now, if we give a focus on where this average stands, on this illustration, you have the age, which is on the x-axis, and the percentage of the population of that age, the percentage of women. So if the average is 11.4%, you can see that it goes from 1 point something percent to nearly 30%. So, and you can see, as was mentioned by Michel a few minutes ago, that the young generations, those on the right, each bar is for 5-year span, So those on the right have a much larger proportion than the oldest one. Now, another way to present that is to have a kind of pyramid of ages. You see that it is not really symmetrical, but that's not new, not a surprise. But you can also see that when you come to the lowest ages, the proportion, as we could see before, is increasing, even if the absolute number are smaller. But the positive news, the good news, is that the proportion of women is increasing in our community. Now, if we, I would like to share this picture that was prepared by the Secretary of the Technical Council. So, how many women are active in SIGRE working groups? The picture has not changed so much since the last time. There are some study committees that are not so attractive, like A1, for example, and others that are very attractive. And I'm referring to B2, so overhead lines. There are a lot of women working in those groups. Well, C4 also, modeling and the technical performance of power systems is more attractive than, for example, transformers or switchgear. Okay, now, what SIGRE did in the last 3 years, I would say, since the last report, to support the Women in Energy group. So the first thing is what I have shown to you. We have now reliable gender data coming from national committees. As was mentioned by Kaya, or I mentioned before, also appointment of Women in Energy representative on the steering committee. And yes, what Kaya mentioned is that we created a SIGRE Women in Energy Award, and the first promotion is indicated here. So a special tribute to Romélie, who was at the origin of the creation of this Women in Energy initiative. Then Ranven Loken, she is also on our board today. Hello, Ranven. Lisa Arla from Finland, Maria Val-Escudero from Ireland, and Olga Sinenko from Russia. So they are our first 5 recipients. Thank you for your attention.
Yes. Thanks for these very encouraging figures, in fact, as we see that the new generation are more female, in fact. And so we can have a great hope for best sharing in a few years, yes. As we have some organizational issue, I suggest that we keep, Maddie, the question for that part later on, and I will have to pass very quickly the micro to Britta Buchholz, which will moderate the following panel. So, Britta, it's yours.
Thank you, Claire, and thanks for this great opening addresses. It's my great honor to moderate now the second part of this Women in Energy Forum. My name is Britta Buchholz, and I'm the former chair of the study committee C6 on active distribution systems and distributed energy resources, and now still active in the working group Africa. And in my real life, I work with Hitachi ABB Power Grids that will soon become Hitachi Energy. So I'm really proud to be part of the SIGRE community now for over 15 years and congratulate everyone for this great Centennial celebrations. Now, on the topic, we know from IPCC and its recent report that climate change will hit us harder and sooner than ever expected. And studies suggest that within society, it will hit women even harder and stronger than the rest of the society. So further, we know from a recent study from Germany that, for example, reaching the German targets of CO2 reduction of 65% by 2030 and 100% by 2050, this will cost €200 per ton CO2 saved if society does not contribute, and it will cost €100, that's half of it, if we have society contributing to that CO2 reduction. So we have good reasons to involve society heavily into this energy transition. As energy experts and managers, we have the knowledge, and with this great SIGRE network, we have the network to accelerate energy transformation. And SIGRE has published already how we see the vision for the future electricity system, which will be the backbone of the complete energy system. As women, we have the instinct and the strength to protect our children and grandchildren from the danger and the bad living conditions that will come to them if we do not succeed to keep the increase of temperature well below 2 degrees. So we will have to succeed, and we have the power to do that. We play an important role in society, and we must do that together. So let's use this forum today, as said previously, to discuss the different perspectives and create the momentum so that within SIGRE and within this group, in the audience and with the speakers, we can really make a great contribution to succeed in the energy transformation. Now in this session, we will hear perspectives from Russia first, and on a recent study on women. And we will hear from a global technology supplier and from a system operator in consulting perspectives and in the SIGRE context. As a first speaker, it's my big pleasure to welcome Ms. Anastasia Bondarenko. She's the Deputy Minister of Energy of the Russian Federation. She's graduate of the Faculty of Law of the Lomonosov Moscow State University. Her entire professional life of more than 20 years, she has been connected with energy, mainly specialized on energy law. And before becoming Deputy Minister of Energy of the Russian Federation in 2018, she successfully headed the legal service of the ministry for 10 years. Dear Deputy Minister of Energy, Ms. Anastasia Bondarenko, in Russia, women have been very strong in science and technology far longer than in many other countries. We look forward to hearing more from you about your study on women in energy sector, in history and today. And we also look forward to hear your vision of the future. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Britta. Thank you for opportunity to speak here. And I'm really sorry to read in my report, just because the English is not the language I'm speaking every day. The feeling I have now is one of I never believed I would have as I started my career in the energy industry. And let me tell you why. I feel proud and thankful because I'm here to present you the research. And this research is the thing that I'm proud of, because it's about two beautiful things in our human world. It's about women and energy. Let me thank you for the opportunity to speak at the SIGRE Forum, Women and Energy. The second, this slide, please. We look at SIGRE is one of the most reputed international organizations. No, the slide, thank you. That unites scientists and energy professionals from all over the world and elaborates an expert professional opinion on priority issues. Before I come up to the main point about the women research, I would like to describe briefly the historical and industrial background of this initiative. In Russia, we pay significant attention to the women's issues. Speaking in 2020 at the forum, Women's Health, the Well-being of the Nation, President of Russian Federation Vladimir Putin called the motherhood and childhood support as an absolute state priority and an important national goal. It is important to note that the women's issue has been recognized as a state priority at the beginning of the 20th century. First, women's polytechnic courses were established in 1906 in St. Petersburg. The graduating students replaced the engineers who went to the First World War fronts. And after that, the courses were transformed into the Petrograd Women's Polytechnic Institute in 1916. The Soviet Union educational policy made it possible to multiply the number of women among students of technical universities. On the slide, you can see an increase in the number of young women getting higher education, including engineering and technical educations in 20s, 50s. Starting from 1920s, the state plan of electrification was introduced, which caused rapid industrial development. And there was a pressing need for technical professionals. Let me remind that then the world all-time high in economic development was achieved in those times. Despite external sanction and the bloodiest war in the world history, the Great Trojan War, the Soviet economy grew at a fast pace. Obviously, women made a significant contribution to it. Russian power system is one of the longest and complicated in the world, operating in 11 time zones and all climate zones. Russian energy is one of the lowest carbon in the world. Figures are on the slide. This slide shows us the result of 2019, and now we have more correct facts. Now we can speak about 81 non and low carbon energy. Hydro is 20.2, nuclear 20.3, renewable 0.3, and gas about 40. Briefly, how the research was conducted. Slide 3, please. Taking into account the historical and the industrial background and global trends for increasing women's role in all professional areas, Russian research was initiated. Companies of the Russian wholesale electric power and capacity market, so-called OREM, including generation, distribution, transmission companies, and large consumer participants were involved in the survey for an interview. Almost 200 companies of all sizes, with a total number of more than 500,000 employees, took part in this research. It's about 54% of the market, as well as the legislative and executive branches of the government at the federal and regional levels. The research includes the data on total number of employees, share of women in total number of employees, share of women in engineering, finance and economy, business administration support, management, and top management. Supportive measures for women at work and maternity. Please, slide 4. The results of the study show average share of women in Russian electric power sector, 36%. In engineering, 24%. In finance and economy, 59%. And in business administration support, 42%. The following dependencies are identified. There is a tendency to increase the proportion of women in business, administration support, and financial economy in large companies with over 250 employees. Regardless of the size of the company, women proportion of the total number in industry and women share in the engineering area are approximately equally represented from 30 to 47%. Average woman share of managerial level, 21%. Next slide, please. Russian data were compared with world indicators. Figures are on the slide. Different reports provide various data regarding women's share in workforce in general and in the energy sector in particular. Starting from 6% of technical staff, 4% of decision makers, and just 1% of top management in the fossil fuel-based sector, coming to 22% of women employed in the energy sector in the European Union and 32% of women in the renewable energy. Using publicly disclosed information, the Clean 3E initiative has compiled gender disaggregated data on employment for the 135 companies. Within those, women made up an average of 23% of total employees. We see 30 companies with the largest number of female employees that are shown in the chart. So Russia is among the world leaders. Next slide, please. Now you can pay your attention on several Russian women and motherhood support measures. It's the governmental level and cooperative level. It's normal for most countries of the world measures, and I don't stop on it. Slide 7, please. World data on maternity support was also analyzed. Different reports data varies regarding this indicator. On the slide, you can see the paid leave available to mothers in compared with Russian data. Next slide, please. In conclusion, I would like to note that it is important to track gender disaggregated data. We are planning to organize such researches on systematic base. The collection and exchange of best practices in support of women's labor and motherhood will help to build more effectively family support to help to discover and develop the women's professional potential. I'm convinced that the continuous educational and professional growth of women on the one hand and scientific and technological progress on the other would create wide range of opportunities for further development of women in highly qualified jobs of energy sector. This is one of the key in ESG principles. Being highly qualified professional, women make a great contribution to the development of economy and culture of their countries. Women are an inseparable part of three most significant social groups: the state, the job team, the family. That's why it is necessary to provide comprehensive systematic support aimed at women development, their self-realization, professional growth, and the ability to carry out the function of the above mentioned three social groups. It is important to inspire girls and young women to build careers in energy fields, to support professional dynasties in the industry. It is possible to ensure it with more active work from the state and business. In this regard, it seems that keeping further tendency of increase of women's share in the industry is possible. For instance, in case of keeping 100% of women's salary during the maternity leave, minimum up to 1.5 years. Promotion different educational programs for the employees' children, primary school students, entertainment, physics, water, the electricity, etc. Developing women's health program, stipulating corporate program for increasing the birth rate among the employees in accordance to national goals. And slide 9, please. A few words to sum up. In October, the Eurasian Women's Forum in St. Petersburg will take place. This forum works under the aegis of head of the Federation Council of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation, Valentina Matviyenko. The key issue is in 2021 is women, a global mission in a new reality. I believe that governments and companies should cooperate to reach national goals and sustainable goals of United Nations. Women around the world are recognized as strong driving forces in the transition to sustainable solution in the energy sector and should act by uniting in communities to reach substantial result. Let's destroy the glass ceilings together via global networking. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your very, very interesting and encouraging insights into the study that you have performed. We will take questions to you right now because I understood you will need to leave us in a couple of minutes. So I encourage everyone to pose questions in the chat. And while you do that, I would have one question to you. So I mean, we're celebrating 100th anniversary, and that's time for birthday wishes. So if you had a wish to SIGRE, and now you know we're creating momentum now to create a working group or something similar in the Women in Energy, what would be your wish to SIGRE? What should we address in this new work that we perform here in this association?
I wish I SIGRE the most effective the next 100 years and more women in energy sector.
Thank you very much. Are there further questions in the chat, Maddie?
No, there's no questions specifically for Anastasia. There's some more general questions relating to the previous presentations that we can probably
take them later.
The end.
Yes, okay. So if you have questions, we will forward questions still to the participants of this meeting, even if they're posted later. So please do ask them. Great, so thank you very much. With this, we move on and to our next speaker. Let us welcome Vera Silva. I learned today that you were a founding member of the NGN network in UK. So great job. And now you're the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of the Grid Solutions business at GE, reporting to the CEO and leading a global team of 3,200 engineers in over 40 countries. In this role, you lead the engineering team responsible for designing and producing high-voltage equipment, HVDC systems, grid automation, digital solutions, and grid services. Prior to that, Vera worked at the Électricité de France, which is the largest French utility, where she has been working with R&D as a program director for electricity systems and markets and senior R&D engineer. Vera began her career as lecturer at the Polytechnic Institute of Portugal, and as researcher at the Control and Power Group at Imperial College in London. I guess that's where the NGN time was. She's a respected industry leader with over 3 books and over 40 scientific papers published, and was recognized as Engineer of the Year in 2016 by the IEEE Power and Energy Society. Vera holds a PhD in Electrical and Electronic Engineering from Imperial College in London and a Master of Science and Bachelor of Science in Electric Engineering and Computer Science, both from the University of Porto in Portugal. So within SIGRE, Vera, we share the vision that energy transformation will need electricity as the backbone of the entire energy system. That includes transportation, heating, cooling, and also industrial processes. Could you provide us your perspective on how this will look like in 100 years and how technology suppliers can contribute to this development, and how women can contribute to this also in decision-making roles? Over to you, Vera.
Thank you, Britta. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. Okay, perfect. So I'm very honored to be here. As you said, I've been involved in SIGRE for a long time, and including with the creation of the NGN and the very first event of Women in Engineering by SIGRE. So really happy to be here this year. The next slide, please. So what I would be talking to you about today, it's very special to be speaking at the 100 years of SIGRE, because if I look back, we had the first century that was extremely exciting because we were building the grid from scratch. And looking back, I imagine if today Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla would imagine that we would have meshed grids across continents, all machines synchronized across a whole continent, such as the case of Europe. We're connecting with AC, DC, islands to continents, and now we have renewable energy. So we've been connecting generation in the sea. So I'm sure that they would be very impressed with the ingenuity of all of what our engineering talents have been done. And as I look to the next 100 years, it's obviously impossible to forecast. The grid will look like something we have not yet imagined. But what I can see is that we, again, going to be entering a very, very exciting adventure because we know that climate change is becoming more and more a reality. The energy system needs to change. We need to change the way We produce electricity, energy, that we utilize energy and make sure that the grids, energy grids will be there to help us to do this transition. So as we look into what are the power generation contributes today, 73% of global greenhouse gas emissions, 41% specifically from power generation. And then when we look at where this energy is being produced, we can see that about 80% is still being produced from fossil fuels. We also look how can we modify this, what is the potential. There are some sectors we can see that they are possible to electrify, and since we know how to produce low carbon electricity, using this low carbon electricity provides an opportunity. And at the same time, we also know that there are other sectors that are hard to electrify. So I would say that in the next 2 decades, we'll be very much focusing on decarbonizing the electric grid, electrifying everything possible, and make sure that we continue working to provide carbon-free solutions for the hard-to-electrify sectors. And the grid, from whom I'm speaking today, the electricity grid, will have a critical role because it's one of the 3 pillars of the transition. We are to decarbonize electricity generation, change and use low carbon energy on the consumption side, and the grid needs to enable this. So next slide, please. This is quite a challenge because we're doing 3 things at the same time. We are moving, with modifying the way we generate electricity, going from a centralized conventional plant into decentralized variable generation with renewables, wind and PV, and finding ways to do dispatchability. We're also changing the demand. We're going from a demand that was relatively predictable and with limited, I would say, flexibility into enabling prosumers, where we have consumers that have both generation batteries in their cars as well as a willingness to participate in the grid operation. We're changing the way the flows happen in the grid, very much from transmission going towards distribution into 2-way flows at distribution level, but also changing the way electricity flows across continents, for example, with the increase of interconnections between countries, connection of offshore. And last but not the least, we're actually changing the physical properties of the grid, because by changing the way the machines we use to produce electricity, as well as adding a lot of power electronic systems into the grid, we're fundamentally changing the principles based on which the grid is operating in a synchronous way today. So we have less natural inertia, but also a unique opportunity to use fast, versatile controls. So I think we're going from a grid that was designed for a different way of producing and consuming energy into a new grid that we will need to start designing and implement it, I think, over the next 2 decades. A change in this also means a change in the decision processes, in the ideas, in the skills and competencies that we need in these teams. So a diversity of technology, business models, organization schemes that we see in the electricity ecosystem will also require a diversity on decision-making in the teams, of skills, of competencies, of experiences. So for me, I think we have obviously a technology adventure ahead of us, but we also have a human adventure on how we're going to create diverse teams that are capable of going very deep into different domains, but also connecting the dots between areas. And many of these areas and skills are completely new to our industry. And I would say that the next 100 years will definitely be the years of diversity in the electricity system, and I believe diversity in the workforce and engineering. So next slide, please. So this diversity will be part driven by many different actors, by our community, but one of the players in this space will be the industrial organizations from which different of us are part of, and how we perceive this and how we construct this. So I take the example of my organization, but I believe many of you will recognize some of the ideas and initiatives in your own organizations. And one of the things is that we believe that diversity and inclusion, because if you have diversity, but you don't adapt to include integrate this diversity of ideas, of talents, of perspectives, it will not be a success. So diversity and inclusion are really a key of success for the business. And one of the things we try to see is what concrete actions we need to put in place to see this happening. So we see that there are some improvements, and I could see some of the numbers of the SIGRE also show this, but they are still quite shy. So if we don't do anything, we won't have a change that's sufficiently fast to cope with the change we're having on the grid itself. And so we need concrete actions. And I take the example of having very high leadership sponsorship, driving the diversity and inclusion agenda. We have a chief diversity officer. We'll have several KPIs and improvement targets, namely to see how we can bring more diversity into senior leadership and business management roles. So we really go through different career bands and try to see where we have the biggest gaps and make sure that when we identify diverse talents, we provide them with support, sponsorship, career paths so that they don't give up the progress of a career within the engineering space and ambition of growing into the senior leadership roles. Another thing is that for every critical position, we need to make sure that there's a diverse slate of candidates. And if there isn't, we need to start looking again. This is very important because often we stop at the first option and sometimes we need to ask again and again. And this is proven to be very good because we see the diversity of the slates starting finally to increase. The second thing, which is dealing with the unconscious bias. In reality, we all have unconscious bias. We all believe that we want more women in engineering, we want more diversity in the teams, but there are some things we're not even aware of that are preventing some of the decisions to help us to take in that direction, or of the diverse people to feel at home and integrated and listened to in the teams they join. And this is why we have unconscious bias training and also a lot of personal responsibility to leaders to understand their own limitations and set up their own action plans on how to improve it. Role modeling is key. And the more I go myself and interact with the women's networks, with teams across the globe, I see that it's very important for the young engineers to see and meet people that they can project themselves into. And today, within my organization, our global CTO for all renewable energy is a woman in engineering. I'm leading the technology engineering, and the global engineering leader for grid is also a woman in engineering. So for the best or the worst, this area, technology and engineering in our business is fully led at senior leadership by women. And finally, we really make sure that we engage more and more HR into this business partnership. I mentioned before succession planning, also following diversity KPIs, but not only measuring, but also setting targets and action plans and understand why it didn't work and improvement targets and make sure that this becomes a dynamic and a team effort to get there. Supporting diverse talent, we often have very diverse, very interesting young engineers, very bright, who eventually get discouraged at some point in the career. So making sure they have the right mentoring and sponsorship available, people that can help them to go through this different stage. And obviously, hiring process is key. I would take the example of our Global Engineering Center in India, where we have today 21% of the engineers are women, which is much better than what we see in the global business. This is an opportunity when we're building some new teams or growing in a certain area, because we can partner with HR and say, I want this team to be 50-50. I know the engineering schools are not providing 50-50, but we can do better. And hence that means strong engagement with universities, the local institutions such as SIGRE or IEEE, making sure we connect with the different candidates, and that if we don't get the slate we want, we look again and again, and we open our horizons. And this actually was a success, and we did manage to hire 50-50, which brought the overall population into this 21% level. And finally, it's about also planting the seeds. So as Anastasia mentioned before, we need to increase the pipeline. Today, it's very challenging to meet these different numbers and targets because we don't have a very balanced, diverse pipeline within the engineering schools. So going into the high schools, making sure every activity to promote girls in science, technology, bringing to engineering, it's very critical for us, because then we will have the pipeline that allow us to implement some of the actions I mentioned. So this was just an example of what we're doing. I do believe that such an implication and the more quantitative actions can actually make a difference and drive the change. And my personal goal is to make sure that in the space of my career, I would see that diversity in engineering will be the business as usual and not something that we talk about, but more something that we enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vera, for your perspective of a technology supplier. And listening to you, I was thinking maybe there are some HR people in this audience today. So if you're there, just what do we need to do that this well-hidden secret of SIGRE is transported into talent development, and so that we do have the right people that we need, also women who see SIGRE as their development chance to develop the skills that they need. Any birthday wish from you, Vera, to SIGRE, to the 100th anniversary?
I think my wishes were partly granted as I could see the care of having real quantitative data and seeing women taking more roles in the study committees and the technical committees. My wish was to those areas that we say perhaps why there are so few women, that we can really go and get those areas and get involved. And I have the same issue with power transformers, for example. So it's to really see us going from looking at the data into acting on the data.
Thanks. We will have a Q&A session after this. Thank you very much. So now we go over to our next speaker. Let me welcome our very active National Women in Energy representative from Kosovo, now live from the US. Are you here? Yes, I see you.
Yes, yes.
So Pranvera Dobruna-Krieciu will take the perspective of SIGRE, including technology, but also policy and societal aspects based on your broad experience as system operator and consultant and SIGRE. So Pranvera is an energy expert with over 35 years of technical and policy-making experience, serves as CEO of Energy Legacy LLC and lecturer on energy policy and energy storage. She is the former CEO of Kosovo Energy Corporation and founder of the Energy and National Resources Office under the Prime Minister's Office. She represented Kosovo in the negotiation process on the Energy Community Treaty in Brussels and led the negotiation process for dispute resolution for TSOs. So we are very eager to listen to your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I am very honored to be a keynote speaker today at this very important session for me. It is for SIGRE 100 years of existence. It's only 5 years for our national committee. I was a founding member of national committee, and I already feel I'm part of this big family. Next. I would like to recognize that SIGRE, by its nature of being a global, collaborative community, has its women in energy community specifically, as well as by its global outreach through national committees and regional clusters, is in the best solution to support and include women in the energy transition momentum. SIGRE Women in Energy has the potential to act as a platform of international collaboration in an ongoing knowledge development programs that SIGRE is developing. Can be a platform that men can actively support and contribute to as well. So there are not women issues, it's only women's approach that men can actively support and contribute to as well. The Centennial celebration is a unique opportunity to commit the greater inclusion of women, not only as the end users, but also as a key actors in delivering energy solutions, not only as a consumers, but key actors. There's a potential. Energy transition, including access to energy for all, is a must. It's already happening. With renewable energy development is faster than we envisaged. It will not be easy to link gender issues to technology, yet it's happening. The new technologies are bringing in more women. I started working in my company as an intern, and after 15 years, I became a CEO. And I was always quoted that I'm dealing with dirty energy, but now the relation between women and renewable energy is that the renewable energy is not dirty. So it is easier for young women to justify and to work in this technology and in this sector. The transition and the shift to cleaner energy will take longer if women are not included in the process. That was recognized by IRENA studies. They suggest that women bring new perspectives to the workplace, improve collaboration as the end users and change makers. Also, women represent the energy consumer behavior. Without changing the consumption patterns, energy transition will halt. It's different in the different countries, but the cooperation with customers is very, very important, and we have to recognize that 50% of the whole population are women, and 50% of population of customers are women. Next. How we can do that? Chances of success are higher through strong partnership with dedicated organizations who are centered around advancing women's participation in the energy sector, like IRENA, IEEE, World Bank, and International Energy Agency. If we work together, we will be in a position to have better understanding and have more accurate numbers. But still, SIGRE is in the best position to get up-to-date data on the employment generally in the energy sector, but in specific for women being employed, not only in the national committees and the study committees, but overall in the sector, in the country, which I have to applaud to Russia for doing that, which is one of the cases we have to actually follow and have a proper data. At the local level, I believe women in energy can collaborate with professional associations, yes, with academia, with non-governmental organizations, policy institutes, and think tanks to build a better gender disaggregated evidence base and understand how other organizations are working and how we're going to benefit from all this work. Next. SIGRE through national committees can promote top female engineers and leaders for the energy transition initiatives and roles, including aligning policies across national committees. We have to promote and support the existing women, but we have to unlock the potential for energy transition, for women being involved in energy transition. There is a lot of potential. We have to find a way to unlock that potential. Like we are doing, everything to unlock the potential of renewable, we have to unlock the potential of women contribute to the energy transition in each national committee and all globally. SIGRE known development programs, through the power sector expertise, but default policies, because expertise is by default policies. And if we come up with the policy that will help enhance women's role in the energy sector. That could be a global policy. Why not? Then we have to share it, and we have to actually present to the government. Why not? If something was done in Russia, why not replicating to other countries? That is something that SIGRE is making it possible. As Philippa said, there's no competition; it's only collaboration, and SIGRE has shown that we can collaborate and we can learn from each other. It's by definition, it's mentorship all the time. We are learning and we are mentorees and mentoring other national committees. SIGRE can initiate more collection of gender disaggregated data, as I said, employment in the energy sector, document publicized economics on a gender diversity to convince renewable energy companies to employ and retain and promote more women. SIGRE can do that, you know, because at the National Committee, we are working closely with the companies who are producing renewable energy, and we can work with them how to promote more women and how to keep them working and increase the number of women, and by proposing to the government to incentivize these companies who are employing women in the sector. Why not? We can propose that. It can come from the National Committee, regional, and then over through global community. Next. How can we include women in the energy transition? Through women in energy in the national committees, and also what is very, very important, through NGN. Because we need young women to be involved, young girls to be involved and lead the process. And lead the process because the sector is seen as, you know, being like now clean, it's renewable. That's why somehow we are more attractive for young women. And we want more women to be seen as energy professionals and decision makers. It will not be enough if we have only women at the study committees and at steering committee, and we would like to follow that percentage of governing body from SIGRE at the national committees. But we want more women to be at the decision-making level. So then all this work, all this power expertise will be seen because it will be implemented in the national policies. Without having women at the national policies, we cannot recognize the work of SIGRE. We cannot recognize all this professional work and all this expertise being there if we don't bring that expertise back to our countries. And there's a lot of expertise and that countries have to use. This is, you know, the pathway is through national committees, and the pathway for women in energy is through national committees and through NGNs. Women have played, sorry, can you go back? Women have played and are playing a key role in getting policy and action in place within the community. So without having that component that women bring at the community, any transition will not be very successful, because women can understand how the consumer should cooperate with the utility, and how we will accept the new energies, how the consumer will cooperate to have more predictable consumption, with working with women. Also, renewable energy companies need to take into account the new world of work. For example, after pandemic, we are learning that telecommuting is the way of working. Why not actually supporting women to work on the telecommuting mode? Fair policies for women maternity. Why not? Thinking about that as well. Training and advancement for women. Why not? We have to make not all policies only for women, but within the existing policies, we need to have a approach that will help women advance in their working place and help them to overcome the barriers that have been identified by several international organizations who are working on this issue. So in addition to that, Women in Energy SIGRE should help work with them and come up with the policies that then it will be scalable and replicable in our national committees and in our countries and policies in our countries. Next. My recommendation will be that SIGRE Women in Energy to launch a questionnaire to its members, first starting with regional and then globally. And the questions may include, but it's not limited, as Anastasia said, you know, we need to start from whether the energy policies are sufficiently inclusive. That is very important. What is the percentage of women employed in renewable energy and fossil fuel sector? Are there education and training programs targeting women in energy? What are the limitations and which are the opportunities for women in the energy sector? How can the energy transition be sped up? Can women in energy help your countries attempt for better gender inclusion in energy sector with the aim of inspiring women at all levels to the transition of our energy systems? Because the approach of women is very inclusive, and I would like to commend to Kaya, who was very supportive when we decided about the name of the Women in Engineering, and we decided to name it Women in Energy. And when we proposed that, I thought about my daughter, who is lawyer by education, but she's in the phase of becoming energy lawyer because she likes renewable energy. So this is about the transition. This is about the transition in renewable energy. This is about young women we want to attract. So through renewable energy, I have attracted my daughter to become energy lawyer. So that's why we wanted that name to be very inclusive, including, I thought about my daughter as well. So that is the inclusivity that a woman has only by being a woman. Next. The result of the questionnaires then later on will be shared among NCs aiming to influence policies and practices. Ultimately, raise awareness on the lack of knowledge of the gender dimension in the energy sector, because we don't know the dimension of energy sector. We don't know the real numbers. We don't know the up-to-date numbers. I would start, for example, from CERS, which is a Southeast Europe regional SIGRE. We can start a project and we will come with the up-to-date data for example, 221, and present to the SIGRE session 222. That will be one of the projects that we can do. And also, I'm inviting everybody to tell us, to advise us, to propose what can Women in Energy SIGRE do for you, for everybody. We are very open to the ideas. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear your solutions. The underrepresentation of women deprives energy transition from talents and thus impedes the transformational changes required to global climate targets. That's the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. So we also support this goal. SIGRE, in collaboration with all these international institutions, has to support the common goal for sustainable development and the clean energy. Next. How can we support and incentivize inclusivity in the energy transition? The case of Kosovo. As National Committee of Women in Energy in Kosovo, I have supported the programs led by Millennium Challenge Corporation to encourage girls attending STEM entrepreneurship programs. And as a result of this Millennium Challenge Corporation program, we have sent 26 women in energy scholarship recipients in the Iowa. They studied only energy for 2 years, and they will become members of the National Committee SIGRE. They studied wind energy, renewable energy, solar technology, power plant technology, manufacturing, constructions, waterways technology, tools and die, and information technology. We also have internship programs to place 200 female university students that have recently graduated in energy-related paid internship for 6 months. There are ongoing projects also by USAID to support women, young women who want to start working in the energy sector and later on will be trained or will study energy. So while I cannot say we have still in place the energy transition strategy because we are heavily dependent on the coal, and we still have to find the transition oil to replace the coal. I can say that there is a potential of women to lead the transition. And as SIGRE National Committee is very supportive towards these programs, and these programs are scalable and can be implemented anywhere in the world. And I can share, the TORs, and I want to help all countries who are aiming to do to present the programs. So there is a potential, I can say, for Kosovo. There's a potential for any country to unlock the potential of women to contribute to the energy transition, to the clean technology, and to green economy, including all women working in the energy sector, being engineers, lawyers, economists, finance, and sometimes psychologists, and all women who are working in energy sector, not underestimating men who are very supportive. But for example, I would probably be asked what I want, my wish, and then I will say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Panvera, for your perspective on this topic and your invitation to join questionnaires. I really invite you to chat about this in the parallel chat. We're a little bit behind time, so I suggest we continue now with the panel discussion and take the Q&A later after everybody has had the chance to speak, and then we can take our time for a lively Q&A. So please do pose your questions in the chat, and also please tell us what we should include in the questionnaire. So you see, we're just ramping up for some activities here. Thank you very much for this panel. With this, I would like to hand over to Tal Katz for the panel discussion. So let me introduce you, and then I will hand over the microphone to you to moderate your panelists. Tal Katz from Israel is a doctor in environmental science from South Africa with over 27 years of international experience in her field of expertise. She has been an active member in SIGRE for over a decade and represented Israel and the Israel Electric Corporation, which is the national electricity generation, transmission and distribution company, in the study committee C3 on systems environmental performance, and there she has joined several working groups. So Tal Katz, over to you for the panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Britta. It gives me great pleasure, and we are very honored to have distinguished guests with us that will be participating in the panel. I'd like to introduce my fellow colleagues. Each one of them comes with an array of experiences and international choices that they have made along the way in order to bring them to where they are today. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Dr. Solange David, who has been working in the Brazilian electricity sector for over 25 years. She is a lawyer specializing as a professor of electric power law. She has an MSc and a PhD in electrical engineering and was a counselor of the board of directors of Brazilian electricity market operator. Solange is a member of the board of directors of SIGRE Brazil, Ares Energia, which specializes in wind blade manufacturing, and is the chairwoman of Santo Antonio Energia, which is the 4th largest hydroelectric plant in Brazil. With us, she'll be representing Brazil and Brazil's perspective. With us is also Irene Leonidaki, who is a doctor and a director of the Network Planning and Development branch of the Hellenic Distribution Network Operator, where she has been working for almost a decade, and in her capacity also represents HEDNO in Euroelectric and in several research projects funded by the European Union. Prior to this, Irene worked for 5 years in the Greek Public Power Corporation, both in the transmission department and subsequently in the distribution department as well. She'll be representing Greece, and Anthony Giacomoni, who is a doctor and a lead engineer at PGAM Interconnection in the United States. For the past 3 years, he has served as co-chair for the international collaboration for the United States NGN program, and he's currently the secretary of the NGN International Executive Committee. He has been very actively involved in SIGRE for many years, predominantly in C5's working groups on wholesale market price caps as the secretary, on carbon pricing in wholesale electricity markets as the convener, as well as the next generation network. I would like to initiate this discussion regarding your outlook to the energy sector's foreseeable transition in the short and the long-term future. And also predominantly and specifically looking at what does the industry really need in order to make this transition a successful one. And I'd like to turn over to Irene to give her perspective from the Greek side. We have had some very interesting discussions and keynote addresses from Russia, from France, from Kosovo, and we'd like to present a little bit, really touch upon the perspective from Brazil, Greece, and the USA, and where they see the energy transition moving in the near and long-term future. So Irene, if you could shed some light on this.
Irina is muted.
Okay, sorry. We have been working in Greece in energy transition, and one of our main goals is, as we have too many non-interconnected islands with autonomous power stations, oil-fired power stations, our regulatory authority, our transmission operator, IPTO, and the distribution operator, HEDNO, has worked together in teamwork, and we have been started with the connected with the submarine cables, high voltage submarine cables, all our islands. This leads to, until 2030, we will not have 1,800 megawatts of working oil generators not working, and having power from cleaner and more friendly to the environment power generators. This is one of our steps. The other one is that we have started projects with smart islands where the RES penetration and electric vehicles will cover almost 20 to 90% of the energy. And we keep working on RES penetration increase, electrification of cars and transportation, the project about the cold dowering. We have started to see cold dowering project in our ports in order to reduce CO2 emissions from the boats. So in a national level, we have started many projects for the energy transition scopes. Also, in our companies in the energy sector, we can see many women, young and older one, that get high responsibility positions, And I think that we, the women who were working on these positions are good examples for younger students or people who see us and follow and see that they can succeed and try and help in the energy sector and have good results and good collaborations. And this is something that is getting better from one year to the other.
Thank you very much, Irene. I would like, Anthony, if you could also enlighten us regarding the US and the endeavors that are being made over there in order to make the transition, in order to implement it. Anthony?
Sure, thank you. So in the US, we're seeing similar trends as the rest of the world that's already been mentioned in this forum, and that's among the 3 interconnections in the US. In particular, even in the region that PGI operates, we're seeing a shift from traditional fossil fuel resources to more renewable and clean generation, and also a shift from large traditional baseload resources to much more flexible units of varying technology types. If you go back 15, 20 years, the system was very coal dominated. Well over 2/3 of the energy was produced by coal. Today, that's a little over 20% now. About 1/3 is nuclear, 1/3 is natural gas, and the remaining is renewables, which is also the fastest growing segment. So we're really seeing a pretty rapid shift in the energy sector and the makeup of resources on the system. And I second what was previously said, that this really presents a great opportunity really for women to help to get involved to shape the future of the industry. There are a lot of difficult and challenging problems that need to be solved as a result of some of these changes on the system, and they're going to require new perspectives and new approaches. And as Vera already mentioned in her keynote, studies have shown that women bring fresh perspective and increased collaboration, and that's going to really be vital in order to overcome some of these challenges that are facing the industry as a result of these changes.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And Solange, if you could also bring your perspective from the Brazilian side and where you see the future of the energy sector heading in the coming years.
Good afternoon for all. First, I would like to thank SIGRE to organize this panel. It's really a pleasure to be here. Currently, I understand that the industry has already understood that it has a key role in the energy transition. In this perspective, this process requires the action of various stakeholders, and cooperation is a key word. In this way, I believe that the industry needs to have an integrated view of what the energy transition means. As my colleagues mentioned before, it is more than replacing a fossil fuel-based economy with a green economy based on renewable source. In fact, we can say that we have a renewable energy, and at the same time, we have renewable obligations or renewable visions of the development or the progress of society. The industry must also participate in global efforts to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and there are several aspects to be addressed. I would like to mention the aspect of social inclusion, in which there is a challenge of expanding the gender equality. I will point out some examples of the industry can do this in this field. First, we need more diversity actions to expand the hiring of young people, including women and marginalized people. In Brazil, for example, in Santo Antônio Energia, the fourth largest hydroelectric plant in the Amazon region, there is a specific program for young students. The program is called Apprenticeship Program and includes girls between 18 and 22 years. They take an electric technical education. They are from Rondônia region of the plant, the power plant. Second, we have the participation in SIGRE Brazil in various study groups. SIGRE Brazil, for example, maintains the Women's Forum, which brings together professionals from various areas. And finally, I would like to mention in general that industry and business should address these issues, organize the discussion, integrate people. I think that companies can support technical and management qualification, mentoring, education on energy transition, and adopt internal sustainability practices and encourage their employees to also amplify good practice. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. You've delved into the next topic that I would very much like you to look into, and that is how we can, in the energy industry, motivate, encourage women's active participation, what efforts are being done, and elaborate on what people, women specifically and young women, can do to bring and enhance this change. And I'd like Anthony, I know that a great deal of work has been done in the US and the NGN network. I'd like you to also start and also elaborate on what Solange has said. What efforts are currently being undertaken, and if you see women's role and participation being enhanced, and in order to ensure a successful transition.
Sure. Thanks. So there's a couple parts to those questions. So to start, a couple things in the U.S. As to follow up on what Solange has mentioned, that are going on is really the creation of affinity groups for women. A lot of companies in the energy industry are creating affinity groups to really help increase networking and support among women, which is helping to increase retention of women in the industry and also providing valuable role models for them. And the other main activity that's really doing a lot of good is a heavy emphasis and outreach on young students to get more women involved in science and engineering, both not only at the university level, but really at the secondary level. So by increasing the number of women getting science and engineering degrees, the number of women that then decide to continue in the energy industry is also increasing, and it helps build a pipeline up not only as young professionals, but then hopefully they'll move up later in their careers. And we're really seeing a similar trend in SIGRE and in the Next Generation Network, where participation from women is really far outpacing historical participation, as you've sort of seen from some of the statistics that Philippe had presented earlier. Just to give you a couple examples, of the over 60 NGN members that were selected to present their work as part of the NGN presentation showcase during the 2020 E-session last year and the 2021 virtual Centennial session this year, over 1/3 of the NGN members selected to present their work have been women. So it speaks not only to the increasing number of women participating in the industry, which again, historically, the number of members in SIGRE is around 9 or 10%, and the number of women participating in working groups, I think, was around 11%, but also to the high quality of work that they're doing, as there's no quotas or gender really involved in these selections, but the selections are solely based on the quality of the individual's work. So it really speaks to the high level of quality of work that a lot of these women are doing. And hopefully this trend will continue and help grow the pipeline as these individuals move up to more senior levels of SIGRE and throughout the industry. So there's definitely a lot more work that needs to be done, but I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. And especially SIGRE can definitely play a major role in that.
Wonderful. And Irene, is any work being undertaken to encourage young women and women specifically to get more involved and be a part of this change and this new direction that we are heading in the sector? In Greece.
Yes, in Greece. We are working in the level of high schools in order to present good professionals, women and men in several science sections, and we are trying to promote good examples in order to encourage young people, and especially girls, to follow what they like and what they choose, as it's not something that they will find. What I'm saying to young colleagues is that if you are working hard and you are good qualified, you are going to reach the achievement. Nothing and no one is going to say to you that you are a woman and you won't go further to what you want. So we encourage them to follow what exactly they like to do, and they will have a good career and they will offer to the section they choose. And for our discussion, the power section that I represent.
I think that's good advice. Having come from South Africa originally, I know that over there, what I strive to do and the people that I worked with at the time is a lot of setting by example and showing that within this industry, although it's predominantly been male dominated, the sky's the limit and there are many opportunities, and you needn't necessarily go in one specific field in order to be a part of this changing sector, but you can also contribute from various perspectives and showing by example what can be done, and that women are involved is something that can encourage young women. And like you said, Anthony, starting at a very early age, it needn't necessarily be at the stage that they are selecting their future career towards university, but starting a little earlier and showing what this sector, this wide sector has to offer. I think that can contribute in any country and from any background that you come from. But I'd like to also elaborate on that and find out from your perspectives what SIGRE can do to assist in promoting women's advancement as well as leadership once they are in the career, once they are within the workforce, and once they have started to really get involved in it, to accelerate women's participation and take into account that their members are energy industry experts from different countries with different energy policies throughout, as well as women's participation policies. If different endeavors have been made in the various countries to promote that, and once they have selected their future career and to be involved in this sector, what SIGRE can do and bring to the table to really elevate this and bring them to the front. And I'd like to start with you, Solange.
Okay, Tal, thank you for the question. In my opinion, SIGRE's wealth is also the diversity of agenda of the various participating countries. There are some possibilities for SIGRE to assist in accelerating women's participation. We can have the Women's Forum for exchange of experiences and debates, interaction programs for innovation, outreach initiatives, And more than this, for example, we can discuss regulation of some countries. For example, here in Brazil, we have some important regulation in order to promote inclusiveness, promote diversity, promote social inclusion. We can bring together and we can discuss. Another way, for example, you can have a platform or an innovation hub for women. It can be created in order to promote knowledge exchange, partnership, building and indication of opportunities, for example. And also, finally, maybe SIGRE can have a pro bono professionals we can mentor so that young women can work in the energy sector. The initiative to exchange experiences is an enrichment process for all involved.
Thank you very much, Solange. Anthony, can you add to that regarding the US?
So, to add with what Solange mentioned, just to follow on, there are two main things I think really SIGRE can really do to promote and assist women's advancement and leadership in these areas. The first is continue to provide a platform for women and young professionals to continue to engage in the industry and contribute to its advancement, whether this is through publications, working groups, study committees, task force, or other means. And then the second, I think just as importantly, is to recognize women for their contributions to the industry. And I think SIGRE is starting to do that very well. You saw the creation of the Women in Energy Award this year. We created the Next Generation Significant Contribution Award last year. So I think those are really two areas where SIGRE really can contribute to continue to promote women's participation and advancement in the industry.
Lovely. Thank you. I'd like to pose a final question to all my fellow panelists regarding the issue of climate change that has been brought to the fore in the last couple of weeks. Predominantly, there's a large contribution of participants in the sector that come from the Northern Hemisphere, and quite a few places have undergone severe fires, extreme events over the last couple of months. I think each one in this panel can probably enlighten us a great deal about what their country has undergone. And my question to you really is, should SIGRE actively enhance and address the impact of climate change on the energy system and the role of women in this development? And what do each of you consider would be your most important topic to discuss and regard and bring to the fore regarding climate change and what needs to be done? Irini, in Greece, where you have also undergone some extreme summer conditions, I'd like you to start off and enlighten us.
Thank you. Yes, it was a dramatic situation for us. We have 2 weeks of wildfires after 46 degrees Celsius temperatures. We have about 85,000 of hectares burnt. We are a little country, so it's a big percentage. We have fires in 4 different huge areas. Forces from everywhere in Europe, and not only USA, Israel, all of them have come to help us. Had to replace 2,500 poles in a few days because they were burned, 500 of kilometers of aerial network. It was something we have faced again, such extreme temperatures, but we have not faced such a quick expansion of fire and such a wildfire destroyment. So I think it's the new big issue in the energy transition, the climate, say. We are in a country with a mild climate, so the last year we have suffered 2 days of a thunderstorm in the Ionian Pelagos, the West Islands of Greece, where for 2 days my mother was there. They couldn't even open the window or the door for 2 days. So the floods were destroying everything. Then we have in February snow so heavy and so big quantity that Attica regions have been without electricity for 1 week. And now we have the extreme heat temperatures, and this in just 1 year. So the climate change impact and in the power sector is the upcoming, for me, issue that we should face not only in a national level, but I think I'm not sure if European Civil Protection Mechanism has included this in order to offer the one country to the other, not only help for the fat squeezing, but for the power restoration with mobile generators, with equipment, helicopters, because we don't know when and in what expansion these extreme climate phenomena will hit us in the next years.
Thank you. Solange, can you also broaden
yes,
on that?
Okay, maybe I would like to say something regarding Amazon, which has an enormous dimension and richness in various expressions, the scenario that we are facing a climate emergency. I know that some aspects are obvious for our view, but in my opinion, Amazon puts Brazil in the world and maybe takes Brazil out of the world in the 21st century, when some issues about the region are observed, such as deforestation and fires. The global agenda and international insertion presented the challenge of the century to deal with vulnerabilities and security, with crises, particularly the climate crisis and extreme events that may occur. In Brazil, we were facing the worst water crisis in 91 years, almost 100 years. Some scientists ask whether this situation could be a phenomenon related to climate change. I'm not going to discuss alpha science, but I would like to say that my opinion, it is that we are all obligated to discuss climate change, loss of biodiversity, loss of animal species, ecological services, for example, regarding energy. All of these in our account that society must face. I believe it's a great battle which goes beyond thinking about energy. And returning to Amazon, it's of a strategic of importance for Brazil and the planet. And we need to work on a relationship of climate stability in the world. And therefore, we must know how to grow and develop based on protection, on conservation, and not destruction. SIGRE and the industry in general can also participate and expand the connection and sharing of knowledge to help address the issues of more sustainable energy generation in the region in general, which will help in reduce carbon emissions. Then I ask for to maybe help to discuss these issues in general. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Solange. And Anthony, if you could wrap up also in the US, how you think the US, now that there's also a change in momentum regarding climate change, and we have also seen some increased incidences of the effects, the direct and indirect effects of climate change, how you see that moving forward and how SIGRE can contribute and really put on the map this important aspect that affects us all throughout the world. It may occur in one place at any given time, but it does have a global impact, and it's all contributed to by a community of various countries that are affecting us.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. And the U.S. is by no means immune to the effects of climate change. We've seen it over the last several years with the impacts of major storms on the east coast of the United States and the wildfires going on right now in the western United States, which are the worst on record, exceeding only last year as the previous worst season on record. So each year is a new record. And these are directly linked to the effects of climate change, from severe drought, extreme heat, and the reduced snowpack in the mountains. And what the role that SIGRE can really play in addressing these impacts, I think, is the need for a more resilient energy system that can withstand the impacts as it's exposed to more extreme weather events. These very low probability, high impact events that are now becoming much more common. And women can definitely play a prominent role in this development, and they're already doing so. I was actually watched some of the presentations from the session last week, where women are already actively involved in this area. And even in the US, there was one presentation on some of the work in Puerto Rico, where they're working to, where of course the grid was destroyed by a major storm a few years ago. So I really think in the face of some of these changes, really ensuring access to electricity is really vital to society. So really focusing on resilience of the grid, I think is a very important area for SIGRE to help contribute to.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all my panelists. You've really enlightened us, shed some light on both your regional perspectives and your global outlook on things. I'd like to thank you all and hand over to Maddie. Perhaps there are questions, additional questions that people would like to pose. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have quite a few questions in the chat, so I'll focus on the ones that were the most popular and haven't yet been addressed through the panel discussions. So one of the questions was for Pranveera. Do you think it would be good to identify best practices with ideas on how to encourage gender equality, how to break down barriers, and the development of programs for women in the 3 phases of their careers in the labour market: attraction, retention, and promotion?
I agree totally. The best practices among our family are at added value. We can share best practices and we can help each other. That is the power of women in energy.
Thank you.
And we are eager. We are just looking forward to hear best practices and ready to share. Thank you.
May I, Ta?
Yeah, go ahead, Solange.
Okay, I would like to emphasize that women can work in different areas, spaces, and levels. And that means that women can also participate on the boards of companies and collaborate to make a more strategic view of the energy transition, including the issues we have commented on regarding gender equality, and spread the best practices. Thank you.
Thanks, Solange. Another popular question was in regards to Dr. Vera Silva's presentation. You talked about using targets or quotas to achieve greater diversity in teams. How essential do you think it is for companies to set quotas or targets in order to achieve more diversity?
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks for the question. I think it's important to set targets of improvement so that we can have quantitative elements to follow and see whether we can see a change. Obviously, these targets need to be realistic, but I don't think that what means within the targets is for every band, every progression, we need to set a goal of trying to have an improvement X% year on year, so that we really get this joint work on looking for more candidates, look again, and make sure that we don't just overlook. So I think it's important to have some way of measuring quantitatively and setting improvement targets.
Thank you. Did anyone else on the panel have anything that they wanted to add to that question? If not, another popular question was, how can we make women's careers a business priority? That was to all panelists.
I can see there's difficulty to find volunteers to jump in, so I'll pick up on this one. So I think one of the things it was, at least from my experience, was to perceive that a lot of the ideas we were getting in terms of what would be next for grid of the future were still very based on how the grid operated in the past and the perception that was quite one look, one window. And it became clear that there's a lot of newcomers into the technology space that will have a different perspective on the grid, on the ecosystem. And so it became clear for us that if we wanted to succeed in the business, we needed to really diversify the teams and bring in new people into the business. So it became a business priority.
Thanks.
May I add some words?
Yeah, go ahead.
A great initiative is to insert women in the complete cycle of the project or the product, for example, from the discussion of the project, analysis and approval, prototypes, implementation, operation or production, sale of the product in the market, for example. Women can be encouraged to work from business modeling, from conception to negotiation with customers, for example. It's it.
Yes, please. For example, I would like to give to the study committee some of the data on how they see our energy transition. I want to bring SIGRE in my country, all this expertise in my country, and use their expertise, for example, how to proceed with the energy transition, how to find the best transition fuel, how to arrange the energy mix, how to have more flexible capacities. That will be the role that I want to do for my country, for a national committee, and that is experience then we can share with other NCs. Thank you. And I will write to them.
Thanks, Canberra. Did anyone else have anything to add on that question? Otherwise, we have another similar question. How do we enable qualified women to be promoted into leadership positions to the same extent that qualified men are? And that was to all panelists again.
Yes, we have.
Yes. So I'll pick up as, oh, sorry, go on, Erin.
I think we have, as long as I have been working on meeting people in several research programs where participate people from many countries. We have very well qualified women engineers and experts. I think that the percentage is not the goal. The goal is to find out where they are, and this is where SIGRE can help through the national committees to scrutinize the experts, their CVs, and merge these people to meet, to show what they are doing, and include them in the study committees, working groups, etc. There are, but they are not always on the surface where we can see and work with them. I am in this panel because some very good colleagues that have been working with me about 25 years have proposed me to the study committee CA1 and to the Women's in Energy. We must find these women and work with them and make them more. Not only to achieve the gender percentage 50-50. It's not the goal, because I have heard the bad option about this. Oh, okay, we have put her there because we have to achieve the percentage. So we have to show people who have worked, who are, or young people who have dreams and want to work very hard, and show them and give them the possibility to participate and offer.
Thank you. Vera Silva, did you want to add something to that?
I'll just reinforce the point of Irene that I wouldn't say that there's always a lack of talented women that can fit the shoes, can take the role. It's more the visibility. So as when I attended some assessment of high potential, often we have to, not for a percentage, but to make sure that people look and look again, to ask sometimes to have more diverse talent. And often there's very remarkable people with great results, but they're a hidden talent. So not often as visible from the senior leadership as we had some other colleagues. And this is where I see that setting up process, like making sure we're quite rigorous in having at least succession planning with candidates, and then of course make the best profile be selected. It's important just to make sure that we see often a population that tends to be sometimes a bit more shy to show what you do. It's very much about do well, work hard, but also make sure it's visible.
Thanks, Vera Silva. We're running a bit over time, so I'll hand back to Tal now. Thanks everyone for answering the added questions.
Maddie, thank you very much. I would like to conclude this panel session. Thank all the panelists, those before were the keynote speakers as well. And also, in light of the questions, just share with you that go after your dream. And the sky is the limit, and may the best man or woman, young or old, win and advance, and just strive to do the best you can and enjoy what you do. And I'd like to hand over to Arianna Guarneri from Italy, who will summarize and also perhaps show us the light and the way forward, and how we can convene in future meetings and move towards the energy transition in the coming years. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tal, and thank you all panelists. I'm Arianna Guarneri. I hope you can hear me well. I'm from Italy, and I work in the Italian transmission system operator. And I thank you very much also, first of all, our chair, Kaya, for inviting me For me, it is the second time I take part to a women session. Luckily, both the times virtually, and I really hope next year we have the chance to really meet in presence and really exchange a glance, really. And I'm honored of taking part to this session. We discussed of the role women had in the history of Segre and what role they played in many circumstances and also in recent challenges as climate change. We discussed also about what opportunities can overrule women can have. And I will be brief also because the time is quite gone. But looking also at the numbers showed by Philip Adam and also by Anthony Giacomoni just now, and also looking at the participation to our session and to the composition of our speakers, I just want to I look forward an even growing collaboration between NGN and women, as I really think that objectives and also instruments in most of cases are common instruments to include, to promote participation, to encourage participation are common. So I really look forward an ever growing collaboration. In this, I think that in Italy, I can say that we are a good example of it, as we have not constituted till now a national women committee, but we constituted recently an NGN committee, and in the constitution of the national NGN, we wrote it clearly in the constitution that among the other objectives, we have the objective to encourage and promote women participation. So I hope in this we can be a good example to have an ever-growing collaboration between NGN and women. And now I just thank you all and thank everybody for joining this session. And I just give the word to our chair, to Kaya, for the closure. And thank you again, everybody. And see you soon, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everybody. There is quite a lot of information that was shared that we will need to just absorb and find a way forward coming from this session. I think there is a need for us to document everything that we have done, including the barriers that are hindering women from actively participating within the technical bodies. It's one of the things that have come up, and the need for collaboration with other engineering bodies, as well as that collaboration between SIGRE, Women in Energy, and the young engineers. We need to be working close together in that area within SIGRE. One of the initiatives that we have put up, that of a mentorship program, that one, I think we have shared this with the NGN group. It's something that we basically have in common, and so we are sharing that space because all the two groups are trying to drive active participation of not just women in engineering, but also women in energy, but also the young engineers within the SIGRE structure. We are going to look at a lot of things, including best practices, being leaders in the space, taking up position in boards, etc. But all of this, all we are trying to do, and what we are going to do after this, is to document it as SIGRE Women in Energy. And so I look forward to that. And please, from the national committees, please look out for the surveys that we will be sending out so that we've got concrete data on what we put into our publication. And with that, I would really like to thank, firstly, SIGRE leadership, our president, Michelle, the Secretary General Philip for always being available and supporting women in energy. I know sometimes things that I bring up into the steering committees are not the norm. And so your support is always appreciated because all we are trying to have the same drive to increase women in energy participation. So I thank you for that leadership. I would like to thank the moderators. I would like to thank firstly our studio moderators, Britta and Claire for being there in Paris while I'm live from South Africa. Thank you very much for taking up that role. I really appreciate your leadership. And I would like to thank all our panelists for the work they have put together towards this session. It was a success because of the hard work that you have put together. Thank you so much for all of that. Our moderators, Tal, Nedi, online, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the hard work. And from the minister, I think the minister has already left, understandably so. Thank you so much for your time. I would like to thank Vera. Vera, I thank you so much. Anthony, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank from the NGN group. And I think this is actually the beginning for the work that we will be doing together as SIGRE WIE as well as NGN. And I would also like to thank Erin. I must mention this about Erin because when we're looking for the panel members, we're looking for some of the most senior SIGRE leaders. And Erin is one of those that lifted their hands to say, I will be glad to take part in this because of the space that we're in. Pranvera from Kosovo, thank you so much for your support. We already have our survey questions from your presentation, and I appreciate that. We are looking forward to more participation and more questions that will go out to the national committees as we put this work together. Who else haven't I thanked? I need to thank everyone that was on my panel. Otherwise, I'll be a bad leader. So, Ariana, thank you so much for agreeing to do the closure. It's very important. And one of the things that I like to always emphasize, we're trying to talk of role modeling. We're trying to talk of, in our energy space as women, of, taking up leadership positions, standing up. And one of the things that we need to be doing more is to give young women engineers opportunities to practice what we want them to do, to take up space and start building that self-confidence. And that is why one of the things that we've also done is to say, here's a list of women in energy. Get into the study committee and start actively participating, even if it means reviewing a technical bulletin. But by that, you are actually being mentored. You are taking up space, and we are building leaders. And if we don't do anything right now, we are not going to see these numbers growing anymore. We can ask for a quota of 50%, but if we are not doing anything right now, we are still going to be sitting at 9% for a very long time. And so I would like to thank you so much for all your participation, all the way from Brazil. Solange, thank you so much. We appreciate all of you. And to the SIGRE community, your support is always appreciated. The responses, the active participations from the national committees. I think the national committee chairs that I have spoken to about setting up a national Women in Energy Forum have responded to this positively. And so I would like to thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to speaking to more of you until we have each and every national committee with a Women in Energy Forum, where we can have more women actively participating, not only at the international level, but also locally within our national committees, taking up space in the energy sector. And I look forward to seeing all of you in our next, all our next activities, and also in the forums that you will be having in your national committees as we set up more of WIE forums. And with that, I would like to thank you and hand back to the studio of Paris. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kalia.
Thank you, Kalia.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi everybody, my name is Pascal Müller from Switzerland. I'm chairman from Study Committee A2 since last year. I just thought this morning, I started I think 2005 or 6, 2006, I started with SIGRE and I become a regular member at the study committee, then I got the working group, and SIGRE for me it's quite important because you have a big network on a high level, and you have you meet experts and you will get friends, because in SIGRE you work more than months. It's always a long time you are in SIGRE, and also quite important is to keep knowledge, to get knowledge to younger people, and often we define things before it becomes standards. Well, my most important contribution, I get really the chance in 2013 in Zurich. I was the organizer of a colloquium from my study committee and C4, and at that time I learned a lot of things, and we meet people from more than 40 countries, and we were about 500 people, and it was really a pleasure to get this opportunity. Well, I'm working for Utility City of Zurich, so it's quite a small business, and with SIGRE I got really an outlook to other problems, to other countries, culture, languages, and also to get ideas. For example, when I do have a question or a problem, I have a big network. I can just send out an email, and in a few days I get answers from all around the world. So that's really very helpful also for my work. And of course, at the events, you meet also people from other management, and you can share your ideas and problems and what will happen in future. Well, the idea of this virtual session, first of all, it needs a lot of courage to do this. After last year we had also problems to have a real event in Paris, and for me and for my team it was quite interesting to work with new tools. I think that's also a thing for future for organizations like SIGRE, maybe to do in parallel, like physical and virtual. And I just want to say a big congratulations to the organization, because what I heard till now, my session will be tomorrow and after tomorrow. It works quite good. Well, maybe I see an aspect for future for SIGRE. First thing, everybody speak of running out resources, I mean personal resources. So I think SIGRE should really think to work with others organizations like CIRET or IEEE or others. So to cluster the ideas and to cluster know-how and have some exchange. And from the point of view you ask about world, I think, well, digitalization, it's all in yeah, you hear it all the times, but I think also environmental and to be open. But at the end, I think the basic ideas of SIGRE should stay the same.
Hi, this is Jean-Marie Georges with Cediver. I'd like to share with you a few observations we make in the marketplace, especially around insulators and insulator selection, with the usual fight or tension, which is sometimes very healthy, between procurement and engineers. One wants the cheapest, the other one wants the best. Relatively classical. Nevertheless, we believe that time comes to reinforce standards and make lines more resilient and find ways to offer to utilities the solutions to the grid hardening questions that they are facing today. We see, for example, with the climate change, the heat in Northwest Canada or US, as well as Europe or Northern Africa and other countries, where temperatures exceed 50 Celsius, which is relatively usual in the Middle East, but not necessarily in other places. Standards need to be reinforced because the highest temperatures at which insulators are tested today is 50 Celsius. So there is work needed. Likewise, there is work needed around pollution. You have insulators which can be extremely good in pollution, but not necessarily bring the necessary required performance and properties under other conditions. And this is interesting because, for example, Sigray had some interesting work which was completed with a guide published this year in B269 on RTV coating over glass and porcelain insulators. This offers an alternative for highly polluted environments without any compromise on durability, longevity, and resiliency. This work will continue in Sigray and will actually also materialize through IEC. We have seen also other examples like the fires in California, where a few years back we did a study in our research center showing that glass was the most resilient in this environment. Obviously, fires are expanding and there are needs for harder solutions. So all this work is needed. Experts need to sit down, and it's a good time for the technical side of our industry to pick up and take the lead again. Thanks.
The energy sector is changing. Transitioning our energy means using all new technologies, renewable energies, storage, digitization, and AI. All these issues are dealt with within Sigray, a global organization of 4,276 experts representing 69 different nationalities. This transformation offers a lot of opportunities for women, who today represent only 9% of Sigray. Sigray France also established a group 2 years ago, Why?, in which men and women in the energy sector deal with the issue of diversity. Maud discovered her passion for electromagnetism in secondary school. Her goal? To get into Supelec. She did it. The internships were an 8.5-year adventure in wire diagnostics and recruitment. She never asked herself too many questions about her career and training choices, as these resulted from meetings, opportunities, and above all, the desire to learn and practice the science that would lead her forward. Tomorrow's energy is being built today. Like Maud, come and add your talents to this fantastic adventure.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate, Siemens Energy's invite into doing this, and also an opportunity to support Sigray as well. So thank you.
Glad to be with you. Chris, climate change is being discussed very intensively in the public domain. From this perspective, how do you see the upcoming years generally, and also specifically the strategies that National Grid is deploying to counter the climate change?
And National Grid has leaned way in to help co-create the clean energy future and to be known really as a reliable clean energy partner. And with that, National Grid has created its own responsible business charter and has made it publicly available to achieve that net zero by 2050. You know, it's in line with the ambition requirements of the Paris Agreement and the Science Based Initiatives, SBTI. And we just feel when it comes to global warming, we're beyond the point where compromise solutions are acceptable, and we have to go for zero.
Thanks, Chris. These are indeed very impressive and very aspirational targets. I congratulate you and National Grid for these really impressive targets. I'd like to also thank National Grid and you for trusting Siemens Energy's clean air technology. You recently placed a really history-making order for high voltage circuit breaker with clean air technology. If you could please help me understand the rationale behind it and your plans with this particular technology.
Yeah, our commitment as it relates to my day job and also Siemens Energy is in the area of, and our responsible business charter states this very directly, it's in the use of SF6 gas. And our ambition is to eliminate all SF6 gas from our assets by 2050. And the technology and solutions are just not available yet to achieve this. Therefore, we're looking to work with partners like Siemens Energy to identify, develop, and implement SF6 gas-free solutions at the earliest opportunity. And with that, we're piloting the Siemens Energy's 3AV 1DTs. They're 115 kV circuit breakers at our air substation in Massachusetts, and we're looking very much forward to them being commissioned by 2023. It'll be a historical opportunity for us.
And we are also so looking forward to it, and it's indeed very not only aspirational but also really industry-leading move by you and National Grid. Thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks Siemens Energy again for having me.
J'aime Paris. J'aime Paris, c'est vraiment une belle ville en tant que photographe. Je crois que d'abord en vélo, la ville est plus belle et que la vie est plus belle en vélo. Je pense que la ville de demain sera beaucoup plus verte, c'est évident. Parce que ça sera c'est du bon sens en fin de compte. Et le bon sens, il gagne toujours, je crois. Il se trouve que j'ai mes bureaux qui sont au bord de la Seine, je peux pêcher de ma fenêtre pratiquement. Et j'ai un bateau en bas de chez moi. Je vais beaucoup me promener dans Paris en bateau. Et c'est vraiment un Paris romantique, avec des monuments qu'on connaît tous. On ne sert pas assez de la Seine comme voie de transport, voie navigable pour les Parisiens. Et j'adore faire du bateau dans Paris.